Okay, we're back in the kitchen for another recipe and another story. Today, we're going all the way back in time to 1971. It's the day before Thanksgiving, 1971, and a totally normal guy in a dark business suit. He walks up to a ticket booth in Portland Airport, pays $20 for a one-way ticket to Seattle, and he says his name is Dan Cooper. Nothing wrong with that, seems legit. Except that his name's not Dan Cooper. That name's fake. The media is later going to go on to misreport the guy as DB Cooper, but we don't actually know what his name is, or was. Within 4 hours, Dan, or DB, he jumps out of a moving aircraft at 10,000 feet into the forests of southwest Washington below. He's carrying with him 2 parachutes and $200,000 in cash, which, I'm going to be honest with you, doesn't seem like a lot of money now, but in today's dollars, that was worth about 1.5 million. And the best part about this story is that nobody's ever caught the guy. Today, I'm going to tell you what happened on that flight, and while I do, I'm going to try my hand at some Herb-Crusted Pacific Northwest salmon. Step 1, we're going to make the herb crust. Breadcrumbs. We're going to add salt and pepper. We're going to add olive oil. We're going to add some dill, thyme, if we have time. And we're going to add some parsley, lemon juice, and some garlic. And I think that's it. So, DB Cooper, he boards flight 305. It's a Boeing 727, which is important. Remember that. And he sits in seat 18E, all the way at the back, near the rear exit. He then does what anyone else does, what any normal person does when they board a plane. He orders a stiff drink, a bourbon and soda. The flight attendant brings it to him. The guy's super polite, he thanks her, and then he sits back, sips his drink, and he waits. He's just sitting there, waiting, and he calls over a flight attendant. Her name is Florence Schaffner. And the guy hands Florence a note. And, this is 1970s, she's a flight attendant. She gets a lot of notes from guys. So she assumes it's just a phone number, the guy's flirting with her, so she folds it up, puts it in her pocket. But DB, he's like, He leans over and says, open the note. So Florence opens the note. And what does it say? He's got a bong. Dan Cooper, DB Cooper, whatever his name is. He says, hey, come here, Florence, sit next to me. So she sits next to him, and he opens up his briefcase on the seat next to him. Just a wee bit, just enough so that she can see inside. She reports to the FBI that she saw a bunch of wires, some red cylinders, and a big ass battery. So at this point, DB, he decides it's a good time to make his demands clear. He wants 4 parachutes, $200,000 in unmarked bills, and a fuel truck waiting for them at Seattle Airport when the plane lands. Before we put the herb crust on the salmon, we're going to cover it generously with salt and pepper on both sides. Salt it up there. Get your blood pressure going. Get lots of pepper in there. More pepper. Okay, now we're gonna flip it over to the skin side up and put the herb crust on top of that. So the feds eventually assembled $200,000 in unmarked bills in 20s, as requested. They get 4 parachutes, 2 from a local skydiving school and 2 from a local pilot. And eventually, at about 5:45, the plane finally lands at Seattle Airport. The money and the parachutes are delivered and the plane's refueled. DB Cooper inspects the money, and then he releases all the hostages, except for 4. He keeps the pilot, the co-pilot, the flight engineer, and one of the flight attendants. Once the plane's refueled, they take off. He orders the pilot to head towards Mexico City, stay below 10,000 feet, and no faster than 200 knots. Sometime after takeoff, DB Cooper sends the flight attendant forward to join the cockpit crew so that he can be alone at the back of the plane. What the FBI and law enforcement didn't know at the time was that the Boeing 727 had a unique feature, a built-in air stair, accessible through the hatch at the tail of the plane, which could be lowered during flight. Which is exactly how DB Cooper exits the plane around 8 p.m., the money bag tied around his waist, and 2 parachutes. And around 11:02 p.m., plane lands at Reno Airport, The feds, law enforcement, they all rush and storm the plane, they search it, but, D.B. Cooper, he's nowhere to be found. The FBI launches one of the largest manhunts in its history. In the first 5 years, they process 800 suspects. Over the full 45-year investigation, the number grows to more than 1,000. The FBI's prime suspect was a man named Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. In April 1972, less than 5 months after Cooper's hijacking, McCoy hijacked a 727 in almost identical fashion. He jumped from the rear of the aircraft with $500,000, got captured, and was sentenced to 45 years in prison. But the description of Cooper given by the 2 flight attendants who had spent the most time with him didn't match, so the FBI ruled McCoy Jr. out. So we're going to go ahead and make the sauce now, which consists of Greek yogurt, honey, lemon juice, salt, and a buttload of dill. Let's jump forward to February 10th, 1980. Okay, this 8-year-old kid named Brian Ingram, he's at the beach, he's having a picnic with his family, he's on the Washington side of the Columbia River, and he's digging in the sand, and what does he find? He finds 3 stacks of $20 bills. So his parents, they gather all the money and they turn it over to the feds. And the feds confirm that the serial numbers on this money match the numbers of the ransom money given to D.B. Cooper on the night of the hijacking. Right? This 8-year-old kid, he just finds all this money, and it's the biggest break in the case. That's all they got. Of the $200,000 that was handed over to D.B. Cooper that night, only $5,800 has ever been discovered. On the night of the hijacking, Cooper left something behind. In seat 18E, FBI agents found a black J.C. Penney tie, but there was never any DNA match. In 2009, a group of researchers analyzed that tie with an electron microscope and found over 100,000 microscopic particles. But most interestingly, they found unalloyed titanium, which around the 1970s was only really used in aircraft manufacturing. Which lends to the theory that maybe D.B. Cooper was a Boeing employee or contractor. After all, he knew about the 727 in the back staircase. He knew that it could be opened mid-flight. The lesson, I guess, is that every institution has some version of that 727's rear staircase. Every system has a flaw in the design, and if you happen to be one of the few to have intimate knowledge of one of those vulnerabilities, and if you're bold, and smart, and willing to take a leap of faith, no pun intended, then I guess you can get away with pretty much anything.